Hi, I'm Sharon, and I'm going to be guiding you through almost an hour restorative practice. So for props, make sure that you have a bolster and at least 2 blankets and a couple of blocks and a strap if you have that. If you don't, then we can work around that. But those basic props and anything else that you know you like, maybe something to cover up your eyes, a scarf or a sleeve or something, when we're in some of the more longer held relaxing poses, just so you can shut out some of that light and stimulation, sensory stimulation in the room. So we're going to make our way over to the mat, unless you're already there, and that's a good thing. And let's start out by lowering down and taking a full body stretch. So softening the torso, hands are behind you, chin just relaxing towards the throat, and elbows bend, pointing behind you so that we keep the shoulder blades in a healthy alignment. Let's take a full body stretch and start to rotate hands and feet, spreading between fingers and toes. Check in with your breathing. Take some nice, slow, soft breaths. And rotate hands and feet in the opposite direction. Just getting some of the tension out of the body, whatever has accumulated there so far in your day. Maybe lengthen one side of the body a little bit longer than the other side, moving into a crescent shape. And lower the arms, start to bend the knees. Let's pick the feet up, wrap hands around fronts of shins or backs of thighs, legs separating as you rock from side to side, utilizing gravity and momentum to help to move the body, massaging the back body. Do that one more time to each side. And then let's tip all the way over to one side. Take an inhale. On an exhale, place your hands down on the floor and just make your way up. And now we'll set up for our first longer held pose. I just wanted to work some of the tension out of the body. So for this, we'll use, let's use 2 blankets and a bolster. So we'll place the bolster across the mat horizontally towards the foot of the mat. And let's take one of the blankets and unfold it once if you have the standard yoga blanket. And we're gonna kind of roll it up and place it right on top of the bolster here. And this second blanket, if you know that your spine is healthy, you don't have any issues going on with your discs, then go ahead and fold the blanket in 2, or a towel, so that you have a blanket whose height is about 2 inches thick. You can see it's about 2 inches. If that's too much and you have some tightness or issues going on in the back, just make a smaller fold. So you can see I've made this smaller fold, and then you can place this down here, and it's absolutely fine to have this little bit of blanket coming out, or find like a smaller towel and just make a little tiny fold or roll. But I'm going to go ahead and do this full version of the prop, and this will go underneath the shoulder blades, maybe a little bit lower. That'll depend on the proportions of your waist. So I'll demonstrate going into the pose. I'm taking a seat here between this folded blanket and the bolster with its roll, and extending my legs over. So I have this blanket supporting me right at the knee crease level. And I'm going to take this opportunity in this position to find my sit bones so that I'm balancing or situated on the sit bone. So if you rock from side to side, you can probably feel those two bones. What happens is we tend to kind of slouch like this. So we only want to round like this when we're purposefully going into like a cat shape or something. So before we lower down, let's go ahead and rock back and forth between a cow shape like this. And exhale. And now, mindfully, we are choosing to round the back into cat. And inhale, you'll feel yourself kind of roll across those sit bones coming into cow. Soften and widen the collarbones, the shoulders, lengthen the back of the neck so you're not throwing your head way back. That actually can be a little stressful for the vertebrae in the neck. I have my hands here on the props. I'm kind of using them to anchor myself. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. One more time, inhale, cow. And this time as we round into cat, let's bring our hands down to each side, starting to lower the spine onto the mat. So it'll be a little bit of a challenge to get this blanket just right. But the way that you can determine if you're positioned correctly for this pose is that your shoulders, the backs of your shoulders, are able to touch the mat. So if your shoulders are kind of floating up off the mat because they simply can't reach, that would mean that you just need to move your body a few inches more towards the top of the mat so that the blanket is situated lower on your back. And therefore the shoulders, the backs of the shoulders can lower down and rest on the mat. And that also will give you a really nice opening across the heart center, the pectoral muscles, the deltoids, just opening up that front body and this very gentle back bend. And then arms could be in a cactus position with elbows bent, palms facing up. If that doesn't feel comfortable, then find another position, maybe arms extending out to the side, perpendicular to the body, or even a bit on a diagonal downward. So settling into this posture, this should feel very comfortable. There should be no discomfort, no pinching. Your breath should be able to move freely and slowly through the body. And start to connect with the breath. You can do that by deepening and slowing down the breaths moving into the body and the breath as it exits the body. Slow it down and let's slow the exhale so that it's a little bit longer than the inhale. Maybe by a couple of counts. So if your inhale is maybe 6 or 7 counts in, that exhale could be 8, 9, 10 counts out. And that all depends on how quickly, slowly you're counting, how your breath moves. Breathing in through the nostrils, breathing out through the mouth. Try that. See if you can direct the breath to flood way down to the lower belly. So it's a little bit of a different sensation with this blanket under the back body. It's almost like water is flowing uphill. If you want to think of the breath as water and your body as the stream bed. You'll feel the body kind of in its buoyancy as the breath expands. You can feel that swelling of the back body resting on the blanket. As you exhale, feel the back body soften around that blanket strip. So that first reaction maybe to feeling a little bit of resistance from the blanket, maybe that first reaction is to pull back or tense up, but instead let's practice being curious, being soft and breathing so that the body can relax rather than bringing tension in. Breath is moving in all directions outward from the center of the body. Imagining that the edges of the breath are softening. Any tension you might be holding in the respiratory diaphragm, that primary breathing muscle, is releasing, letting go. We're creating strength and pliability in that breathing muscle. And breath moving, massaging around all those secondary muscles that assist with respiration, the muscles between the ribs, around the back body, massaging the abdominal organs. Just let yourself soften and begin to relax as you settle in to this place, this sanctuary on your mat. Feeling the body soften and settle. You can slow the breath down even more and maybe add a breath retention, a kumbhaka, which is the Sanskrit word to describe a breath retention. So taking a full, slow, nourishing breath in, and then holding the breath at the top of the inhale, maybe for several counts or as long as feels comfortable for you. Your body being that vessel. The word kum, or the sound kum in kumbhaka, means vessel. And then when you're ready, slowly exhale, release, let go. Feeling an even deeper sensation of letting go, softening and relaxing. Spend another minute or so here playing with the breath. And then let's slowly start to bend one knee, pick up that foot, bring the thigh in towards you. Do that with the second leg, and then take your feet and nudge the bolster away from you. Place the soles of your feet down on the mat. And let's move into a little tiny bridge pose so that we can remove the blanket strip from underneath us. So take an inhale, feet are hip width apart, knees are bent. As you exhale, press through the feet, lift the hips, and reach and tug the blanket out. Place it somewhere off the mat and lower your spine back down. Let's come into constructive rest pose. So feet are about as wide as the outside edges of the mat. Angle the feet inward so that inner thighs and knees come together, and feel now that contact that your back body is making on the mat, on the earth, feeling the coolness of the mat. Take some full deep breaths here and notice if it seems as though there's more softness, spaciousness around the back body where that blanket strip was. Maybe place the hands on the lower belly and feel the breath moving more easily through the body after that first posture that we did with mindful breathing. Make sure the shoulders, the neck is relaxed, are relaxed. And then let's bring the feet so they're hip width apart. We'll move into a little gentle yoga sequence called the Clamshell. So the way this works is on an inhale, the knees open out to each side and the feet tip on the outside edges, and the hips tilt slightly forward so that the lower back lifts up slightly. I can even slip my hand right underneath the lower back. I still have this nice length through the back of my neck. And then on an exhale, I bring my knees back together, soles of feet are back on the mat, and I press through my feet, and my body slides slightly upward. So my body isn't literally picking up off the mat, but my body is sliding inside my skin. And I'm getting a little tugging sensation on my back body and on the spine. So again, inhale, legs open, hips tilt forward, lower back slightly lifts up off the mat. Exhale, knees come together, feet press into the floor, and the hips actually tip in the opposite direction. So now my tailbone is almost tucking as my spine kind of slides along the floor inside my skin. So inhale. And exhale. So go through those movements at your own breath pace. So we're starting to bring some flexibility in through the inner thighs, inviting some mobility into the hips, stimulating the muscles, the tissue in the back body, waking up the spine. And it feels good after we had that blanket strip there. It's a nice little massage. And then let's go ahead and add a bridge this time. So pressing through the feet, sliding on the back, and then lifting the hips. Arms can be diagonally downward on the floor, maybe palms down, and then lower the hips. Inhale, open the knees. Exhale, pressing through the feet, coming up into bridge. So adding that and moving at your own breath pace. Inhale. And exhale. So we're also creating some flexibility in the lower spine there around the lower back. It tends to kind of slump into a C curve. We get a lot of tension and tightness there, pressure on the discs. So this is a great way to help the spine remember that healthy S curve that we used to have. Hopefully still have. Let's do that a couple more times. And then holding that last bridge. Pressing through the heels especially so that we're igniting that posterior chain of muscles, the glutes, the back of the legs. Everything else is soft, the face, the neck, the throat. And then bring your hands to your hips, and as you lower your hips, you can nudge them towards the foot of the mat, creating some tractioning through the spine. Tailbone, hips come all the way down. Take an inhale, pick up the feet. Exhale, extend them up towards the ceiling. Arms reaching up. Let's rotate hands and feet, spreading between fingers and toes. And then let's rotate in the opposite direction. And then lower down, and let's rock from side to side again. Maybe making a circle with our legs so that the pressure that we're feeling on the back body is showing up in the lower back, and we're making a little circle with the legs. And then rotate in the opposite direction, making that circle. And then tip all the way over to the left side. You can bend that bottom arm and use that bicep as a little pillow. Now notice how with the back completely free, no pressure there, you can really breathe freely. Ready to come up, that top hand can press down. You could extend that top leg. That makes it a little bit easier to come up, pressing the other hand down. And then let's take a comfortable seat, maybe on a folded blanket or a bolster. So I have this blanket strip from our first pose. I'm going to go ahead and use that. And let's find our strap. And we'll spend some time on neck and shoulders. So sitting in any comfortable seat, maybe cross-legged, maybe in a chair if this isn't comfortable here. And we will take our strap and take hold of it, just wrapping once, so that you can easily change the positioning, the width of your hands on here. And rather than gripping and bringing more tension into the hands, let's allow the fingers to extend. So they're not like really rigid, like jazz hands. They're just really extending. And so then let's extend, spread the arms out so you can see what I've done. So my strap was relaxed, my arms were relaxed. I'm spreading arms and hands, and that spread should travel up the arms to the shoulders, even to the shoulder blades. And then a little bit of subtle movement, you can kind of play with the shoulders here, or the shoulder blades rather, so I'm able to kind of move in a way so that my shoulder blades shift and slide on my back just a little, which feels really good if you have any tension under in the muscles under the shoulder blades, like the subscapularis muscles. We tend to really get some interesting sensation there. Okay, one more to each side, or maybe there's some other way that you are finding that you'd like to move. And then I'm going to widen the grip here. Let's bring the strap up. Start to bend the elbows. So bending the elbows is really important. We don't want to force the arms straight back. That can really be uncomfortable. You'll notice you kind of need to keep shifting the width of your hands to get it just right. So I'm bringing the strap behind me, bending my elbows. Feels really good. And then back forward. So just experiment, move organically. Should feel like a nice release through the shoulders. So I'm straightening my right arm and lowering my left ear to my left shoulder with my left elbow bent. That feels really interesting. Sure that you're breathing. And then let me move this bolster off the mat. And I'm starting to lower over to the side. And I'll bring this top arm behind me and twist open. And then same thing on the other side, lowering my left hand. My right arm is going behind me. I'm going to try that again. So if this is too far of a reach to the floor, you could place a block underneath your hand. We want to keep that opposite hip down. So my right hand is on the floor, but my left hip is staying down. Okay. Coming back up. And releasing the strap. And just sit for a moment and feel. Feel the shoulders, arms and hands. Okay. So let's go ahead and extend our arms out in front of us, palms up. Inhale and exhale. Start to bring your fingers down and pressing the hands down. So I think you can see, I'm showing you from the side, that's what it looks like. We're starting to open up the palms, the wrists. Very careful here. We don't want to force anything. So if this feels like too much, then you could stay up here and simply take your hand and just stretch the other hand. So don't force anything, especially if you have any repetitive stress injuries. I kind of like to go from side to side. You could bend the elbows if you really want to go deeper, lower the elbows to the floor, and then go ahead and rotate the thumbs here. That thumb that's always hitting the space bar. Okay, and breathe. And then let's either shake the hands out here, or if that's too much pressure on the wrist, you can simply slap, pat your legs with your hands without having all of that weight landing on the wrists. Okay, now let's make fists and bring the back of your wrists right to the top of the thighs here, top of the thigh bone, and then start to straighten your arms or bring them towards straight. And yes, allow the shoulders to come up around the ears. What that does is it creates like a little nest with your upper trapezius muscles to protect the neck. So oftentimes, or sometimes in a class, you'll be asked to do some pretty wild neck rotations, and that can be painful and it can be scary. It could scare your body. So this way, we have this nice little cozy nest. We can make little tiny rotations of the head, starting to release tension in the neck while we're stretching our wrist in the opposite direction. Go ahead and move the head in the opposite rotation here. Breathing. Okay. And bring the head back to center. Again, releasing any sensation in the wrists. Okay. And let's just take a nice pause here for a moment. Again, noticing any energetic shifts in the body. The hands might feel warm, tingly. Maybe the neck feels a little better. So rooting down through the sit bones, take an inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, turn your head all the way to the right and turn your eyeballs all the way to the right. Give your eyeballs a break here. And then inhale back to center, exhale, head turns all the way to the left. Same thing, repeating. Do that several more times. And finishing up. Okay. So starting to move into our next pose, we'll be doing a supported reclining twist. So we'll use a bolster and 2 blocks and 2 blankets. So we'll set up blocks so that we're in a configuration like this. If you don't have blocks, just roll up a blanket so that it can support your bolster, or maybe if you don't have a bolster, you can just create a ramp of blankets somehow. And then let's place a blanket down here at the base of the bolster to support the bones in the knees and the feet. And let's take a blanket and have it handy up here. We may need it to support the arms, and I'll show you how that works. So let's approach the base of the bolster and align your right hip with the lower right-hand corner of the bolster. Your right thigh could be touching the lower edge of the bolster, or if it's a little bit away, that's fine. Let's bring our hands to each side on the mat. And then let's move into a cow shape, lengthening the spine. Inhale. As you exhale, starting to bend the elbows, lower the torso, lining up the outside edge of the right rib cage with the right edge of the bolster, and turn your head all the way to the left. Your arms can be resting here. Now, if you feel like you're dipping too far to the right, you could place the blanket underneath your right forearm like this. So that's why we have this blanket handy. So settle in here, make sure that you feel really comfortable. You'll feel your breath moving in a really interesting way since your torso is twisted. Just let the breath flood where it will, through the back body, into the belly. Really enjoying those deep, full breaths. Let your upper arm bones just relax out of the shoulders. Check in with your hands, make sure your fingers are relaxed and your palms are resting on the mat, on the floor. And if there's any discomfort in the lower back, you can rearrange the positioning of your legs, maybe stacking one on top of the other. And you might want to add that kumbhaka, breath retention, back in here. It's fun to play with the breath in a twist. Breathing in, holding the breath, exhaling. Noticing on the next inhale how the body swells with breath. Maybe feeling that slight little pressure nudging up against the spine, the shoulders, the hips. As you exhale, feel yourself, imagine yourself moving even deeper into that twist. Coming back to those same components, same steps, breathing, feeling the breath, feeling the body soften even more as you release and let go on the exhale. Each time you breathe in, an opportunity for nurturing, healing, calming energy to move into your body, to create change in the physical landscape of your body, which imparts positive change into the other levels of being, your emotional, mental states of being, processes. Twists literally wring out the soft tissue in parts of the body and the torso, like a wet washcloth, a literal wringing through the torso, pressing, pressure like a little massage, moving the flow of blood, of lymph fluid. So this is really good to detox, to enhance the functioning of the immune system. So deep breathing and this type of movement helps to massage that lymph duct. So the blood supply has the heart to initiate that movement with the lymph duct. There is no corresponding organ, so breath is really an important function of efficient lymph movement. And another minute or so here in this twist. As you prepare to come out of this twist, slide your hands towards you until they're underneath your shoulders. Take an inhale. As you exhale, press through your hands, lifting the torso. Come on to hands and knees here over the bolster. Let's move through some cow and cat poses. Inhaling into cow, exhaling into cat. Finishing that last little round of cow cat, come into table and move that left knee over to the right. You might have to move both knees a little bit further over to the right so that you can lower the left hip and align it with the lower left-hand corner of the bolster. Hands on the mat on each side of the bolster. Inhale, lengthen into cow, lengthening the torso, and exhale, lowering the torso down, turning your head to the left, maybe positioning the blanket under your left arm if you feel like you're kind of dumping into the left shoulder. And then just notice how this side feels different than the other. Become familiar with how the breath is moving through your body on this side. Maybe playing with the breath retention. And as always, if your thoughts are distracting you, it's not a problem. Just notice that you're thinking and just let those thoughts Move on by, flow on by, maybe like leaves floating in a river, in a stream. Just let them go downstream and then bring your attention back to your breath. Noticing the texture of your breath. Can you soften it even more? Feel it moving through the nostrils. And as it leaves the body, it's a little bit warmer from the body having heated it up. Feel that little tug on the back body across the skin, across whatever fabric of the shirt that you're wearing. You can feel that stretching, that tugging. And again, that wringing out on this other side. Maybe imagining the body is releasing tension, toxins, making room for more positive elements of peace and calm, enhancing that sense of equanimity that we're developing, that calmness in the face of whatever may be going on around us. And as the body releases physically, maybe it's a time to think about something you'd like to let go of. Something more subtle or more abstract. A habit of behavior, a way of thinking. Just letting things go with compassion, being kind to yourself, no judgment. Letting go of a need to be in control. Oh, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Kidding. Yoga really teaches us to be with ourselves, to meet our bodies, our minds on the mat each time we practice, no matter how we are, and it's always different. Some days we want a more active practice, some days we need rest. So a more advanced yoga practice is being able to really tune into what you need and give it to yourself. And also being able to really utilize that breath, that prana, life force energy to support you in your practice and in your life off the mat. Take a final breath in your twist. And then let's slide our hands back towards us underneath shoulders. Take an inhale. As you exhale, press into your hands, lift the torso, and let's start to turn to the right. So we're making a half turn so that the bolster is behind us. We're sitting on the mat, knees are bent, and then lowering down. So you could either lower down without the assistance of your hands, or if you feel like you need that, that's fine. Place your hands down, lower down. Take a full body stretch, moving into a starfish shape. So we just squeezed out the old, and now we have all this open space for the new. So let your arms relax down. And if your shoulders feel really tight here, you could place blankets or pillows under the backs of your lower arms, or simply extend your arms downward closer to your body, and that will lessen some of that opening sensation across the shoulders. And now enjoy this soft receptivity you've created in the body. So literally fresh blood supply moving into the organs, the tissues, and also just metaphysically or on a more subtle level, you've created space for more positive energy, hope, peace, calm to flood into those other layers of your being, the emotional layer, the mental layer. So go ahead and rest here for a few minutes. Let your body receive, absorb, digest. If this bothers your lower back at all, you can simply bend your knees, or you could even place a blanket or a bolster under the thighs. Just make sure you're really comfortable for this short period of time we're here. And then if your knees are not bent, go ahead and bend them, bringing the soles of your feet closer in towards your hips. And let's start to tip over to our left side. Let's stay up on the bolster. And take a couple of breaths here. And then gently make your way up. And let's turn around and face our bolster. And I want to first do a little twist here before we settle into legs up the bolster, which will be our final pose. We're going to end with legs up the bolster. But first, sit as close as you can to the bolster and start to lower down. You might want to have a little blanket under the back of your head. And pick up your feet, squeeze your thighs in towards your belly. And I just want to do a really gentle rocking twist from side to side. So arms are extended out perpendicular to the body, legs lowering to the right and then over to the left. So picking up that right leg and then the left leg follows, just using momentum and gravity to tip from side to side, just squeezing out any final energy that needs to go after that last sequence that we did. And then legs lowering all the way to one side, make your way back up. And let's extend our legs up the bolster, and you could use a strap or a blanket here. So I'm going to go ahead and use, I'll show you both versions. So if I'm using a strap, I'll just place it underneath the bolster. And dropping myself in, making sure that that metal buckle is not next to my skin, doesn't feel good. Here it is, perfectly situated. Tight enough so that as I lower down, when I lower down, my legs will stay on the bolster. So my lower body, those large muscles of the lower body are completely relaxed. I will say, if you have glaucoma, avoid this pose and instead just come all the way down on the floor and place a bolster horizontally under your thighs to avoid creating pressure in the top of the body. So I'll show you, for those of you who don't have a strap, how to get set up in this pose. You can take a blanket and unfold it, or a towel, something so that it's a wide shape. Hello. And just place it over the legs. Doesn't even have to be this wide. And then tip to the left and just tuck it underneath the bolster. Tip to the right, same thing, just tucking yourself in. The blanket goes between the bolster and the blocks, lowering down all the way. Arms coming out to the sides. And relaxing in this inversion where the head is lower than the lower body, and actually a little bit lower than the heart, because I don't have a blanket or a pillow or anything under the back of my head. So it just kind of adds to the inversional slant of the pose. So this is very calming for the nervous system, helps initiate or prolong the relaxation response in the body. Very calming. So at this point, allow your breath to find its own natural organic rhythm. After breathing mindfully for almost an hour, your body has the hang of how to breathe in this way that keeps us in that, utilizing that calmer part of our nervous system. Let yourself drop even deeper into this state of relaxation. Just feeling the waves of breath moving up and down your body, almost like a waterfall, or like the tide rolling in, receding. Any visual imagery that helps to calm you even more. Feel the support of the earth beneath you as your spine, your back body grounds down, feeling safe, comfortable, creating this sense of well-being in your body, in your mind. You're always able to calm yourself with simple yoga breathing. Feel your back body soften and spread, merging with the earth beneath you. Thoughts are distracting you again, let them go. No need to examine them. Just watch them float downstream, little leaves on the water surface. Bring your attention back to just a delicious, nourishing inhale of breath. And exhale. Maybe playing with a breath retention if you like that.
Yeah.
And you are practicing at home, so if you'd like to stay in this pose longer, you can do that. Otherwise, I'll guide you out of it. Hands can come onto the lower belly, start to activate those deeper inhales and longer exhales. Very gently begin to tug one leg out of the blanket, bending that knee, thigh moving towards the rib cage. Same thing with the other leg. A gentle rocking from side to side and tipping all the way over onto one side. And take 2 or 3 slow breaths here on your side body. When you feel ready, you can make your way up, coming into any seated pose. Hands could come into the Heart Mudra, Anjali Mudra, as a way to honor that inner wisdom, that knowledge that we carry. Thank you so much for letting me guide you through this practice. Namaste.
Namaste.